Disclaimer: this podcast is created for educational purposes as a part of a MIL activity. The information presented is based on our research and understanding at the time of production. While we strive for accuracy, there may be unintentional errors or omissions. This content should not be considered professional or expert advice.
Okay, picture this. It's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're in the middle of the online class. Your teacher is finally explaining that formula you've been confused about all week. But then suddenly, boom! Total silence.
Then you open your phone to check the class chat. But too bad. The load just saved up, so you can stay in call. Gone. 50 pesos gone. Just like that.
And here's the frustrating part. That's the third time this week. Not an accident, not unusual, it's just a Tuesday.
Meanwhile, somewhere in Cavite, a small business owner staring at an electricity bill that's nearly double what she paid for 8 months ago. She runs a small food business. She's already barely making it out. Now, it's even harder.
And neither of these stories made the news. They never do. But they're happening all over the Philippines every day, quietly.
Welcome to Lights Out Loud Off, a podcast how Philippine energy crisis is hitting the ordinary people where it actually hurts. We're recording this on April 30, 2026, here in Cagayan City. I'm Christopher.
I'm Tinka.
I'm Danforth.
I'm Matthew.
And I'm Philip.
We're 5 grade 11 students from CDO who got really frustrated about this issue. And instead of just complaining about it in our group chat, we decided to actually talk about it in our MIL project.
Yes.
We're covering 3 big things today. 1. What is actually causing the energy crisis? It's not just a Filipino problem, and we'll explain why. 2. How is it affecting the economy? From households all the way to businesses and the big macro picture.
And 3, this is the part where that matters most to us. How is it hitting education? Because we are literally living in this. Every time our load runs out, every time we have to choose between data or food, and that is the crisis that is showing up in our life.
Without further ado, let's get started.
Let's go.
Okay, so to actually understand the energy crisis in the Philippines, we actually have to zoom way out.
Right. The ongoing conflict involving the US, Israel, and Iran has been seriously disrupting global oil supply routes. 2 major ones specifically, the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. These are basically the highways of the world's oil trade.
To give you a sense of scale, according to the International Energy Agency's 2025 report, around 21 million barrels of oil pass through the Strait of Hormuz every single day. And that's about 21% of all the world's seaborne petroleum. When that route becomes risky or unstable, global oil prices spike up in price.
And it's not like it needs to be completely blocked for prices to go crazy. Even just the threat of disruption makes the shipping companies change more for insurance, take longer routes, spend more fuel, and all of that gets passed down.
So, higher crude oil prices means higher cost to generate electricity, and that means higher electricity bills for everyone. That's the pipeline for a country like ours that imports most of its fuel. That pipeline hits fast.
I also overheard from my mom's friend who sells frozen goods in our market why her cost went up. She said, I don't know anything about wars outside the country. All I know is electricity is more expensive. She just knows her freezer now costs 40% more to run it down last year.
That makes me wonder, why is the Philippines especially vulnerable?
I think it's because of our government, right?
Yes, I have another idea because of our energy mix. According to the DOE's 2035 Philippine Energy Plan, about 57% of our electricity comes from coal, and most of it is imported. Around 19% comes from the Malampaya gas field of Palawan.
Oh yes, and Malampaya is also a big deal because it's been powering millions of Filipino homes for decades, but it's running out.
Yeah.
So the DOE estimates the depletion before 2030 and that we don't have a confirmed replacement for it that has the same scale, the same power. So
So we're already in a vulnerable position before this global conflict made things worse. We rely heavily on fuel, but we don't produce enough for ourselves.
Yes.
We do have renewables. Geothermal, hydro, solar, wind, and this makes up about 21% of our capacity. And fun fact, Philippines is actually the second largest geothermal power in the world, behind US.
Really?
Yes. But the transition to renewables has been relatively slow.
And because of something called WESM, or the wholesale electricity spot market, when fuel cost spikes, electricity prices follow almost immediately. It's like real-time price transmission, basically.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what it actually looks like for ordinary people.
The most direct hit is the bill, basically. Electric bills went up, and families were already tight on money and are now being squeezed even harder. We're talking about real trade-offs. Do I pay kuryente this month? Do I buy medicine? Do I pay for my kids' supplies? Or keep the lights on?
Yeah. I interviewed my relative, a relative of mine, and she does transcriptions online and earns about 18,000 a month. Her electricity bill used to be I think 3,200 a month, and her most recent bill was 5,600. That's almost 2,400 more every month. And she started working before sunrise and after midnight just to avoid the hours when she's scared that the power will go out.
And it's not just about expensive electricity, like at all. It's also about no electricity. If you're a home-based worker and the power goes off for 6 hours, you lose income. If you have a sari-sari store with a freezer full of ice cream and the power cuts off, you absorb that loss yourself. There's no safety.
Yeah.
The story is unfortunately very common. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, March 2026 Consumer Finance Survey found out that 38% of low-income households here in the Philippines said that they had to make explicit trade-offs between paying the electricity and buying food in Q1 2026. That's up from 17% than the previous year.
And also, MSMEs, or micro, small, and medium enterprises, are the backbone or the spine of our country. The DTI data, or the Department of Trade and Industry data, says that they employ more than 60% of the Filipino workforce, and that they're taking a really big hit right now.
Furthermore, because they can't afford to protect themselves the way big companies can,
Yeah.
a giant corporation can install a backup generator, hire consultants to apply for subsidies, and hedge against fuel price spikes. A small bakery is just, absorbs the cost.
So I talked to a bakery owner in my neighborhood whom I'm close to. His electricity bill went from 28,000 to 47,000. Can you imagine that? In just less than a month. So he cut 2 hours from his opening day, and one and let one part-time worker go. He told me, dili na ko gatanaw o mukita pa ba ang iyang business. But dito na lang siya mag-focus na gamay ng iyang ganse sa iyang business.
That's sad.
PIDS, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, released a policy note in January 2026 estimating that sustained electricity prices increase of 20% or more could reduce MSME employment by up to 8% in manufacturing heavy provinces over 12 months. We're already seeing an increase of 50% in many areas.
And by the way, there's also food security angle. Farms depend on refrigeration to process and ship food products. When power is unreliable, food spoils in the supply chain. That means less food reaching markets and more expensive food when it does get there.
Zooming out, this is feeding directly into inflation. The PSA March 2026 data shows headline inflation at 6.1%. And the contributing 1.4% points of that's the highest utility contribution to inflation since 2018.
The government's options are tough. The BSP can raise interest rates to cool inflation, but that slows down loans and investments too, right? And the Philippines is still carrying debt from the pandemic. It's a painful spot to be in right now.
And foreign investors looking at setting up manufacturing here, energy reliability is one of the first things they check. If we can't guarantee stable, affordable power, that makes us less competitive, which is a long-term problem for jobs and growth.
Yeah.
Okay, so this segment is the most hard-hitting out of all of them because it's literally our lives. Like, we're not just reporting this, we're doing this out of like compliance. We're literally living this, and we have lived on this.
Same. I had a similar experience to it. Not now, but it was in my junior high school days where we had a test and the power went out almost 3 times every week. I missed online review sessions. I could not get back. So let's just talk about this honestly.
It's horrible.
Right now, and especially right now, schools are actually shifting back to online or flexible learning because of the energy shortage. It makes sense. As the price of everything are rising with the country Philippines summer heat, school is not really a place where everyone can learn. So schools are adjusting.
Yeah, and DepEd data from February 2026 shows a 12% increase in schools activating flexible learning arrangements compared to the same semester in 2024. In Visayas and Mindanao, that number is, I think, 19%.
And the big irony here is, we literally come from the pandemic era. Online learning, we came from that. Sorry, not come, came. We know all the problems, the inequity, the tech, access gaps, the students getting left behind. We were supposed to be moving away from that, but here we are again.
Except this time there's less urgency and less public attention to face the problems that come with it. The crisis right now is not COVID, so the support systems aren't being mobilized the same way, but the students having the same struggles.
And here's another thing. We all know, but adults don't talk about it enough. Low budgeting.
Yeah.
That thing where you calculate exactly how much mobile data you can spend per class. Because if you use it all on one Zoom session, you won't have anything left for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I literally do this. Like, I open Zoom and I use audio only to so that my load will last more longer.
And this is just our experience. A CHED survey in quarter 1 of 2026 found that 44% of state university students outside Metro Manila ran out of mobile data during classes, at least twice per week. That's like, yeah, that's like 28% up from 2024.
And mobile data prices are actually linked to energy costs, by the way. Telecom towers run on electricity. When energy prices go up, operating those telecos also go up.
Yeah.
And in prepaid-dominated country, like the Philippines, that pressure falls directly on the students buying 50 or 100 peso load promos, especially since 50 isn't really enough anymore. It isn't enough for online learning.
So the crisis takes away reliable electricity, which forces online learning, which requires data, which has also gotten more expensive because of the same crisis. So it's a cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not the same everywhere. Students in Metro Manila and Cebu have problems. Yeah, but they have options too. More community spaces with power, more data competition, more non-governmental organizations programs.
But if you're in, let's say, rural, let's say Visayas or Mindanao, or in a farther away barangay here in northern Mindanao, the brownouts are longer, the signal is weaker, and the support systems are thinner. If your area loses power for 12 hours and your cell tower gives you 2 bars on a good day, you're not just struggling with online learning, you're functionally cut off from it.
Yeah.
And,
Crazy.
and at the most isolated markets, think geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas, indigenous communities, you name it. We're not just talking about reduced quality of education, we're talking about complete absence of it. There's no education coming from it.
Yeah.
For
There's also a mental health side to it. To this that people don't mention enough. Studying while anxious about whether your load will run out, whether the power will stay on, whether you missed something important, that's a completely different kind of exhaustion. It's not about the subject, it's just constant background stress.
Yeah, and teachers are also burning out. And our teachers, they already had to completely reinvent how they teach during the COVID times. Now they're being asked to be flexible again, with less support, less urgency from the top, and the same number of students to reach every year.
Yeah, and actually, the World Bank in 2024 Southeast Asia Education Report estimates that Filipino students lost an average of, 1.6 years of learning adjusted schooling in COVID times.
Yeah.
So, if this energy crisis persists and creates new learning gaps before those old ones get fixed, we're talking about compounding damage that will take a decade to do.
Yeah. That's a lot of damage.
Okay, so it's clear that there's a lot happening right now,
Yeah.
and our sectors are doing the best they can.
So the Department of Energy has issued demands and management measures asking large companies to reduce usage during peak hours, coordinating with power generators. In Q1 2026, they've also expedited 15 renewable energy project approvals, compared to only 4 in the same period last year.
That's
Yeah.
really helpful for us.
And the DepEd, or the Department of Education, has also issued guidelines letting schools adjust their schedules, suspend face-to-face sessions on bad brownout days, and shift to printed modules or asynchronous formats. Some LGUs have also set up community charging stations and free Wi-Fi spots.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And also, some teachers are genuinely being creative. That's with making offline readable PDFs, materials, creating lessons that can be saved and studied without internet. That's really resourceful for us.
But, and this is important, the scale of the response doesn't match the scale of the problem.
There is no national student connectivity safety net, and the government is funding billions to provide free internet access to the remote schools. But it mainly covers students who are physically on campus, not students studying from home, which is exactly the group that needs help the most right now.
And the renewable energy transition, while moving faster, is still not fast enough. Regulatory processes are slow. Investment hasn't matched our actual potential. The Philippines has geothermal, solar, and wind resources that most countries would envy. And we're underusing the most of them.
Yeah, you're right. You get a point.
The policy response is just, slow. By the time a guideline is issued, the situation is already on the ground and has moved on. That gap really matters.
So, what could, or rather, what should our country do now?
So, first, we must expand student data subsidies. The government needs to cover home-based learning, not just on campus. This doesn't require inventing something new. It requires political will to extend what already has existed.
Second is priority the solar panel installation for public schools, especially in rural areas. And if schools have solar power and battery backup, they stop being helpless every time the grid falls. And they can stay open, they can offer charging to students, and they become a resource for the whole community.
Third, offline learning kits. Preloaded tablets, downloadable modules, DOST devices, distribution programs for areas where connectivity just cannot be guaranteed. If we bring the internet to every student right now, we can at least bring the content.
Yeah, I can see that, but I really think that these are just like short-term changes, and also preloaded tablets is like an impossibility for our country right now because we know how it is.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, why not just accelerate the renewable energy transition since we already have that, and seriously this time, and with real funding, or at least promote to use it. The Philippines has extraordinary resources, as mentioned earlier countless times. Geothermal, solar, wind, these are not just future possibilities, but they present real opportunities that are not moving on fast enough.
And additionally, to add on to the long-term effects, reducing dependence on imported fossil fuels is a national security issue, an economic issue, and an equity issue. The communities hurt most by energy insecurity are almost never the ones making energy policy.
And build an education to add up to that. Education systems that doesn't completely fall apart when something goes wrong. Not just for brownouts, but for typhoons, pandemics, whatever comes next. Offline content, hybrid options, training teachers. This is possible.
Yeah, that's really good so that we can avoid this crisis further on. And now that makes me think, what can we do as students? But now I think about it, we're not that powerless. Let's talk about this, like this podcast. Make noise about it. Attend maybe school board meetings and LGU sessions. Push for school connectivity and for it to be treated like the basic necessity it is.
Yeah. And also, as students, we have to support each other.
Yeah.
If a classmate ran out of load, share what you can. And if a school develops good offline materials, share them. Community solutions matter even while we push for systemic ones.
keep paying attention. This story is not just going to be resolved quickly. Stay curious, stay informed. Don't let it become just normal because it's going on for a while.
Yes, definitely.
That's right.
Alright, let's wrap this up. Today, we traced a line from a war in the Middle East to a global crisis to a Filipino electricity bill to a student in Leyte who couldn't even finish her online classes. That line is real. It's not abstract, and we're all somewhere on it.
Yeah, and the energy crisis is exposing something we already kind of knew. Like our systems were not built to protect everyone equally. The people who suffer the most from brownouts are not the people who have generators. They're the ones who are already struggling.
And as students, I just want to say this directly. Every single time the power goes off during a class, that's not just an inconvenience. That's time we can't get back. That's a lesson we missed, a review we skipped, a future slightly harder to reach. Those things add up.
I mean, the data is clear. The World Bank estimates 1.6 years of learning loss from the pandemic. We cannot afford to add to that. We cannot afford to normalize this.
Yes.
And also the market vendor signaling that electricity is expensive. The baker putting in more work hours. The student rationing mobile load like a fool. All of them are us. All of them are you. We need to fight for change.
This has been Lights Out, Lock Off, recorded on April 30, 2026, Cavite de Oro City, by five grade 11 students who are really tired of our country being silenced about this pressing issue that we have right now.
Sources are in the description. If this episode helped you understand the issue better, share it. That's literally what we're all asking.
That's a continuous statement and for
Take care, everyone. Bye.